There's a huge problem that's been going on dealing with these self-checkouts. And the reason why there's a huge problem that's been going on is because there's been a lot of theft when it comes to their self-checkouts. A lot of customers are deciding not to pay for groceries. And I know the cost of living is just getting too expensive, but I don't condone stealing. But at the end of the day, we're starting to see this more and more often. And it's happening at a lot of grocery stores, Walmart, Costco, and Target. And companies are losing out on a lot of money because of this. And I know it's just a terrifying situation, but at this point, it's like, what can you do? You're being promised that things are going to go back to normal. The cost is going to go back down to regular price, and it never does. So people are getting tired of hearing about this. So they're starting to take matters into their own hands. So let me show you what I'm talking about in this video.
$100 billion. That's how much self-checkouts have actually lost annually. They say it's 16 times the amount than a traditional cashier. So when stores took this on, all these technology companies were like, listen, you can replace employees. Employees don't have to work anymore, and these machines can run 24 hours a day. But one thing they didn't anticipate, $100 billion lost annually by people stealing items. They call it shrink in retail. But what do you think of that number? Do you guys typically go to self-checkout, or do you typically look for someone who's a cashier? So 16 times might not sound like a lot, but these companies that are doing millions, hundreds of millions of dollars a year, that's how much they're losing.
Can anybody tell me why Walmart has 40 plus checkout aisles and only 8 of them are ever open and only one of them has an actual real person? And it's not because they're understaffed, because there were about 6,000 employees at every corner you turned, but none of them seem to be at the register. Why did they not open more of them?
Here's what I'm not doing anymore. The self-checkout lane. Forget about it. That's it. I'm done. I'll give you an example. I'm at the store today. I get one item and I'm standing in the regular checkout line because I had a couple minutes. I had time to kill. I had nowhere to be. So I'm just chilling. They tap me on the shoulder. They're like, oh, self-checkout is open. So? I don't work here, bro. I know it's open. Jiffy Lube is open. Are you going to go change your own oil? I'm not going. I don't work here. She's like, well, you only got one item. Mind you, the line is already moving, so I gotta like move and talk. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. And she's like, but you could be done faster. And it's like, lady, I don't work at your store, bro.
Basically, everybody on Earth is stealing from self-checkouts, and that happens in two ways. One way is hilarious on purpose master thieves. This Australian person printed homemade barcodes for packet ramen and stuck that on steaks and appliances. There also used to be an entire subreddit trading tips on how to steal from self-checkout with moves like the banana trick, which is where you take an expensive item, ring it up by its weight, and punch in the weight of something cheap like a banana. However, almost all theft from self-checkout is not theft on purpose. It is the accidental, oopsie kind. We're tired, we're busy, we easily forget or miss a scan. And that theft adds up. One study of a store in Leicester found that they lost more than 4% of all their earnings just at self-checkouts, almost entirely due to accidents. But stores keep installing self-checkouts because they'd rather turn you into this cartoon character than pay a cashier.
There are ways to steal at self-checkout regardless who's watching the cameras. And that's where I'm gonna let you know you're wrong at. The people at the checkouts have this thing right here called a TC scanner. And that's what really keeps track of everything. And when you're checking out, it pops up the stuff right there that shows them what you're scanning and what you're buying. And not let alone can they see what you're scanning and buying, if you're not scanning anything, the self-checkouts have also got a thing for theft. Say if it looks like you skip scan something, if you don't know what that is, pretty much where you act like you scan something, you put it in the bag, it's got a little detection thing on it. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna pause it, not allow you to scan. It's gonna blink the thing that's up at the top of the checkout, how it has the lights. It's gonna blink for assistance, and it's also gonna continuously replay what happened on the screen. So say if you act like you scanned something, put over there, it's gonna replay that clip back for somebody to see it and then come approve it first. So not let alone does that stop it, if somebody sees you're not scanning something on the TC scanner, they can pause it from their side. It's gonna make it seem like the checkout's fucked up or something like that. And then what they're gonna do is they're gonna come over there, look at pretty much what they're not gonna say it straight up to your face, but they're gonna look at what you scanned and what you haven't scanned. And they have the option to fix it or act like it's just messed up and take you to a register where somebody has to check you out and can't skip scan anything. This has happened plenty of times where the people at the checkouts are stealing and shit. The people are catching on to it, or either the register caught on to it and sat there and replayed the fucking video over and over again, and the person had to come over there and pretty much let them know what was up and take them to somebody else. And when I say let them know what's up, they play dumb, they take you to somebody else that's gonna actually check you out and say that the checkout's fucked up or something.
Stop stealing from Walmart self-checkout. So Walmart has these new cameras right above the cashiers. One thing goes wrong and your face pops up on these screens. The slightest hand movement that looks like you're stealing, that camera catches it and then it puts it on the screen, and then it will replay your video back of when you're trying to steal something, like if you didn't scan it.
America, Walmart and Costco will start cracking down on self-checkouts. And they're talking about limits on how many items shoppers can scan. And under new proposals, stores would be allowed to operate no more than 8 self-checkout machines at a time. It would also require stricter staffing rules. An individual worker would be responsible for only 2 self-checkout machines. And Walmart and Costco say one traditional staffed checkout lane should be open for every 2 self-checkout lanes in use. Now, this is done to stop self-checkout theft and also overburdening workers by keeping too few eyes on too many people. Now, this is actually a planned law coming up in Connecticut, but Costco and Walmart seem to support this in other states as well. But in the state of Connecticut, this would apply to Walmart's, Costco's, as well as smaller convenience stores and also pharmacies. Critics argue that this is going to slow down shopping. People that like it say it's going to limit theft and make it so traditional lanes are open more, rather than the self-checkout with 10 people doing it and then one person struggling to keep up like we've all seen. So let me know what you think about Walmart and Costco's plan and what the state of Connecticut's starting to do. So let me know what you think. Walmart, Costco, you think this is a good look? Think this is a good move, or do you think this is bad?
So Walmart wants to take out the self-checkout lanes. They made the announcement that they're going to try to take all of these out by the end of 2026. And what is the reason? Well, the reason that they list is theft. They say that too many people abuse the self-checkout to scan the wrong item and to take things, primarily food items. So I will, of course, be the advocate the other direction, as you guys know I often am. Maybe perhaps the problem is that in America in 2025, that people are willing to risk their very freedom to steal from Walmart because they cannot afford to eat and feed their families. If that is the place that we have gotten to in America in 2025, and you cannot relate to that because you're too wealthy or your family is doing too well at the moment or anything else, props to you for taking good care of you and your family. Not every American is in this situation as of today. And the situation that many Americans find themselves in today is one in which they would consider stealing a small dollar item through the self-checkout from Walmart or Target in order to feed themselves or their families. I think we have a larger systemic problem in our society to discuss. Inflation is crazy out of control. We've had over 1 million layoffs in 2025. Just last week, 48,000 people, families, leaders from UPS, and a whole slew of others. So ultimately, I understand that Walmart is a business, Target is a business, they have to make profit. If they want to take out the self-checkout, it's their business, they can do as they please. However, there's a larger conversation to be had as a society for the fact that we are now in such a desperate place for many human beings that they would be willing to get caught stealing from Walmart to be able to afford food. That is something that needs to be addressed in our society by us, by our leaders, because it's not a good situation to be in when this many Americans are out of work and can't find work and don't have any way to feed their families. Tell me your thoughts. I'm sure there will be a lot of them.
So sometimes something is called the future, but then it doesn't play out how like people expect, so we have to go back to the past, and that's exactly what's happening with this right here. Self-checkout at Walmart, which was introduced in the 2000s and really ramped up in the 2010s, where was called the future of the company, where they got rid of most cashiers, but now they're phasing it out, and here's why. Diving into this, we got to look at the numbers behind cashiers, because before Walmart introduced self-checkout throughout their stores, they'd have around 9 lanes open at the stores, which in 2026 labor prices would mean $18.25 an hour, which would come to $1,975 a day in expenses, or nearly $720,000 a year just to pay cashiers. Which might sound like a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not, because the average Walmart makes $100 million a year, meaning they make enough money to pay the cashiers for the entire year every 63 hours. But still, while that's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, Walmart is a relatively low profit margin business where they only make about a 2.5% profit on every dollar of revenue they take in. And also at the same time, there were some issues with lines where they were afraid it was costing them customers, so they wanted to look out for other options. Still, Walmart was actually at first pretty reluctant to get into the self-checkout game because it failed big time when it was first introduced in 1986 at Kroger, where they reported a lot of issues with the touchscreens because touch technology was new, and also a lot of people didn't like the idea of paying cash into a machine. Changed heavily with the rise of credit and debit cards, where in the year 1986 it was reported that only about 6% of payments in retail were done through credit and debit, but then that changed where by 2002 it's officially over 50%, and now in 2018 70% of all payments are done through credit and debit versus cash. So because of that, as well as touchscreen and camera technology improving, Walmart started to embrace self-checkout a lot more, where they first introduced it in 2002 without much success, but by the 2010s it gets really big, where it's now making up 65% of all their sales. But over the years, as Walmart's gotten more and more into self-checkout, they realized there's actually a lot of problems with the business, with the first one being the decline in impulse purchases, where Walmart actually makes a lot of money with people waiting at the register, so they'll grab some sort of snack food they otherwise wouldn't when they're doing self-checkout, and this can actually pay up big time, where it's reported Walmart does over $10 million a year in sales of these for every single Walmart, meaning there's actually more money to be made off the impulse purchases than paying the actual cashiers. At the same time, there's also some fights with local governments, with one example being this woman in particular, Megan Cotter, is a state representative out of Rhode Island, where she actually passed a law that required it so that for every 3 self-checkout machines, there's to be 1 register available. And the claim she made was from the Americans with Disabilities Act, saying this is bad for seniors, bad for the blind, and bad for people who are disabled, where too many people were going into a Walmart with disabilities and they didn't have anyone to take care of them. And finally, there's the big one, theft, where Walmart hasn't actually revealed how much has been stolen the last few years, but the last report came in 2023 where they came out saying $6.8 billion of products were stolen every single year, and also at the same time, people going through self-checkout machines had a 70% higher likelihood of stealing. And that itself has led to a lot of bad press, because Walmart has removed self-checkout in a lot of their stores in Philadelphia, New Mexico, and also St. Louis, Missouri, but it's always in areas that are heavily minority, so because of that, people are saying Walmart's just racist and profiling them. Self-checkout is definitely not done. Walmart has been phasing it out of more of their stores and bringing back cashiers while they look for other options like RFID chips. But with that, I'm Charles Pearl. Please subscribe to learn something.
After seeing this, I'm starting to realize that this is a sad situation, because I'm trying to wonder. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'm trying to figure it out. Let me know if you've been thinking about this for a while also. I'm trying to figure out, how did we come to this? How did we get here? As you can see, there's a lot of people that's just taking matters into their own hands. They're tired of being constantly lied to. And I don't condone stealing, but people feel like they got to do what they got to do, because the cost of living is continuing to rise, and they feel like they're left with no hope. They're left with no choice. So that's why you see a lot of theft that's going on when it comes to these self-checkouts. And a lot of companies are starting to get rid of the self-checkouts, because too much has been going on when it comes to the self-checkouts. And people just been stealing like crazy. And I know it's sad, but in reality, due to everything going up, everything is becoming expensive. Some people feel like, what can you do? There's nothing to do. So that's why you see more crash outs. People just stealing from the self checkout. And companies are continuing to lose a lot of money at these self checkouts. And I know we wasn't prepared for this, but when you have situations like that where you're barely being monitored, people are going to try to take advantage. And that's just the world that we living in. And I know it's a strange world and the things that you see, but in reality, I knew it would come to this though. I just wanted to know how and when. I didn't know it was going to drastically happen and like this. And that's the fascinating part. Because it's like you go to the grocery store, you try to figure out what you're going to buy, you're looking for the best deals, and then when you get there, the deals aren't so good. So that's why I'm starting to realize people are starting to just become upset. I'm starting to see more and more people becoming upset when it comes to going to the grocery store than just trying to shop, get the best deal. It's going to continue to get worse, but it's getting crazy out here. So that's my take on this situation. Let me know how y'all feel about this one. Leave it in the comments. And I'm going to see y'all on the next one. Peace.